Gonna do it. Oh, no. I am always with the music. And they're gonna. Oh, hi! Bendición Santo, hi! Let me turn off my chill music. Happy New Year! Happy New Year. I hope everyone is doing good. Hi. Mm. I hope people are getting their water. I have my water. How is everyone doing? Hi. Hi, Kasha. How are you? I hope everyone's family is doing well and, they had a good little, holiday thing. We're going to have a great conversation. And you know what? Wait a minute. I'm excited. I'm excited too because you never know what's going to happen. Let me see. Our and every time I do a live, I'm like, I'm gonna be serious. I'm gonna, I have to represent and be serious and all that, but that never happens. So we're gonna add in. I'm gonna add in. Really? And I do this every time I do this. One day I'm gonna get this together. Y'all are gonna be so proud of me. You'll be really proud of me. But let me see if I can add. Wait a minute. 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 Aha! Because sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't. Yes!
Hi.
Ta-da!
You did it.
I did it. Thank you. I'm wearing gold, so I must have a gold star. I just must. I did it.
You
Hi,
did
how are
it.
you? I'm
I'm
waiting
good.
for some more folks to come in, so I'm just like kind of like chit-chatting.
That sounds good. Happy New Year.
Same to you. You look fabulous.
You do too.
Oh, thank you. I'm a little bushy. I'm a little bushy, but
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
I know that's right. Nothing wrong with some bush. Um, I can't really talk that way because our overlords will you know anyway they do that thing that they do. But I'm so excited. Thank you so much for accepting my plea.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, so we had um an election year, and I
Don't
thought,
remind
and
me.
so we're gonna get into it, but we can't get into it too deep because the overlords.
Mm-hmm.
But I before this, I was railing against the machine with title holders, and I'm gonna ask you a few questions that I ask all title holders
Great.
about But I don't want to say you're like old school, but you've been around. You've been around.
I've been around for a while.
Okay. So I'm going to add some questions, but I have been asking title holders this thing. And then the election happened. Well, actually, then I did a video on my YouTube about title holders and what I remember title holders were.
Mm-hmm.
And how I'm not really seeing that now. And I was like, you know what? I should have some conversations with some title holders, to see, what the fuck is going on. And so that's how this all happened. And then the election happened, and I was like, who do I know that can teach some civics? You. Anyway, with that being said, let me stop goofing off and say hello to everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I have my notes because I'm usually all over the place as usual. But thanks for coming, and you're going to have a great conversation with John. Am I calling you John John?
You can call me John John or you can call me Punky. Either one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You
Because
know
I
me
know
for
you're.
so you've known me for so long and you know me by John John. You can call me John John.
Thank you. I was talking to Lady Sabrina about you, and she was like, "Oh my God, John, I miss him so." I was like, "Calm down." But, Lady Sabrina.
I
But
love
anyway,
her.
me too. I wish he'd get out more. But if anybody has questions, please, there's a little box at the bottom that has a question mark in it. Put your questions in there. Um, I am Sir Raven, CEO of BLX. We've done this song and dance before, so if you don't know, I have created BLX. It's a nonprofit. I do workshops. I do community conversations like we're doing now. I created BLX along with others, but I created BLX because I saw a need for the community to have Black and brown sex educator, kink educators who were not at times getting paid for the labor that we have done so much. So I do that in several ways. You can join our Patreon for $10 or $25. I have a Cash App in the link, Venmo. I write grants so that I can, like kind of collect some money and try to do that. But grants are, what grants are. you know.
A lot
So
of
a few
work.
things, no idea. It is so much work, and then you never know if you're going to get the grant. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of work for not
Yeah.
knowing get the grant, right? So we have a Patreon that kind of supplements that, but that's also slow going as well. But it is what it is. I'm going to keep doing what I do. So I'm collaborating with the House Supreme. We're bringing some kink and BDSM workshops to New Jersey. The 26th of this month, we're doing fire, wand, caning, and cupping. I think we're doing all those things. I'm not sure. It's in Jersey. We're also doing bondage in February and fisting in March. So we're doing that in Jersey to try to bring some, some stuff. I won't be doing the fisting, although, Anyway, check out the bio. In our bio, you will find in that bio the Patreon, the Cash App, because we do community organizing and workshops, and we ask people to take COVID tests. You can get some free COVID tests. There's a link is in the bio. The Leather Daddy, I'm doing all the fucking things. I am exhausted, but it's worth it. We are going to talk about civics, but we're also going to talk about leather and leather titles. John, please. Oh, wait a minute. One other thing. And if you like what John is putting down, you know, we want to see some hearts, some hundreds, some peace signs. So we want all of that stuff because it's
Give it
always a
to
lot of fun.
us.
Yes, give it to us. So John, please introduce yourself. This is your time. I'm gonna sip
And
my water.
everything's clear, right? You see me clear, you hear me clear?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Perfect.
That's a
Perfect.
nice
I like to
chair.
make sure.
That's a gaming chair, right? It's one
That's
of them
my
gaming
gaming
chairs.
chair right there. I am a gamer. So let me start by that. So I'm John, born and raised in New York City. From Actually, I'm half Puerto Rican and half Sicilian, but I only grew up with my Puerto Rican mom and family. So I'm proud Boricua living in New York City. Grew up in public housing, grew up in the projects for most of my life. Um, and I was our first Mr. Rock Bear, New York City, in 2015. For those who are in New York City or been to New York City, Rock Bar actually back in the day used to be known as the Dugout, also used to be known as Ramrod,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then became Rock Bar many years after. And it's a bear bar or for folks who love bears or love to be in the company of bears. And in 2015, they had announced their first title. And I was like, I love this bar so much. I come here all the time. I was a member of Onyx, a very active member. I used to be a road captain was my first role in Onyx. And we used to go to shit. Why am I drawing a blank on the bar? Rawhide.
I was
Uh,
Like, you don't remember Rawhide?
Remember?
Like,
It was so small, so tiny. But I was selling Jello shots and I was doing this and doing that. But and then eventually Onyx came and started doing bar nights at Rock Bar. So I was like so involved there. Ran for that title, won that title, and then I went on to actually have some more roles in Onyx. I was a vice president, and I was also president, a former president of the Northeast, New York Northeast chapter, and then eventually went on to run for Mr. Eagle, and I won Mr. Eagle in 2017. And I've just been here dibble dabbling ever since. Since what? Onyx. I met Onyx in 2010. So that is 2010 is when I was like found my who I am in this community. And yeah, and for those who know me in New York City or maybe have seen me online, I'm a very politically active individual. Whether it's through like community organizing aspect or whether it's through government. I've been working in government actually since 2014. I worked on the city level, on the state level, and now I actually work in the federal level. So that's a little bit about me.
how excited are we? I mean, I'm excited. So let me ask the leather questions, and then we can talk about some other stuff. And it's just like a regular conversation, you
For
know.
sure.
You know. So did you run for a title because you wanted clout or sex?
That's a really good question because a lot of people do. First of all, let me start by I didn't want sex, but I do. If anybody knows me, I love to show my body. So I was also a former go-go dancer and go-go bear in the community. So
Mm-hmm.
actually, whenever anyone would see me at like an Onyx event, I was probably wearing a vest, a harness, and probably a jockstrap. Like that is what I'm known for, right? Like that is my outfit. I hate wearing formal leather. I hate putting on a Sam Brown. I hate putting on leather pants. I hate putting on leather button down. I only did it when I competed for Mr. Eagle, and that's because I had to. um, or if I went to like MAL or something and went to leather cocktails, then I dressed formal. Um, but no, I ran for Mr. Eagle because I wanted to see more representation. For me, for a long time, everything for me is about representation. When I joined Onyx, because Onyx was about representation. I competed for Mr. Rock Bear because Rock Bear was about representation. Um, Before I competed for Rock Bear, Rock Bar is predominantly there was predominantly white bears who went there. And I was like, I'm Puerto Rican and I love to be around people of color. I love to be around everyone, but I don't see as much. First, I started with I don't see as much Latinos, Latinas, Latinx people coming out to these spaces. I know that they exist because
Mm-hmm.
I'm here. So if
Mm-hmm.
I'm here, there's someone out there, Puerto Rican, Mexican, Dominican, whatever, who is feeling the same way.
Mm-hmm.
How can people feel comfortable coming to a space if they don't see themselves in that space?
Exactly.
That is what
Exactly.
prompted me. That's what prompted me to run for Rock Bear. That's what prompted me to run for Mr. Eagle. Everyone also knows that Mr. Eagle title is usually, you go to IML and you compete in IML. I was really clear that, and some people frown on me for this, I did not compete for IML. I am the
Mm-hmm.
only Mr. Eagle who did not compete for IML. And there were some
Everybody
people
said,
who were like,
you're
what'd you
not
say?
going. I said, you're not going.
What-
Everybody was aghast
Yeah, yeah,
because you
yeah.
were,
Do you remember when people found out?
yeah,
It was
yeah,
it was kind of crazy. I was kind of taken aback too because I was like, all right, relax, calm down.
exactly. And the thing is, even I mean, you say that before you even, because you get the criteria of what you have to do for your title. And if you're looking at the title and you say to the producer or whoever, I really want to run for this title, but I don't want to do this thing, right? And they still let you run, then what's the issue then?
Well, the thing, well, I will say in this case, I will say in this case, when I ran for Mr. Eagle, it wasn't necessarily a requirement to go to IML. It just became a tradition that all the Mr. Eagles before me had done.
Oh, it's
Now, when
question. Okay,
yeah.
I got it.
So, but
Mm-hmm.
when I ran for Mr. Eagle, I actually was okay with running for IML. Like, I was like, okay, I'll run for IML. Sure, why not? As I was in the middle of my title year, I said to myself, I want to be Mr. Eagle because I want to represent Mr. Eagle. I want to represent New York City.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a conversation with the owner. And the thing about the the owners of Mr. Eagle are amazing, and I sat down with one of their two husbands, and I sat down with one of them, Derek, and I told him my reasoning, and he was super understanding of it. It for him it was about what was my perspective on the issue. Now the frowning that I got was from people in the community,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I was like, and you know what? Can I curse on here? It's Instagram, right?
Yeah, it is.
I was like,
Go
I
for
don't
it.
give a fuck. I don't give a fuck what you think. This is about my journey. It's not about yours. And I'm here to represent the Eagle, and I'm here to represent New York City. And you know what? In my title year, I like to say I did a damn good job as Mr. Eagle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You were all over the place. That's
I
that's
was.
nice. Because when people have titles, sometimes you don't see the title holder, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you see them when they're asked to come out to judge a thing or that kind of thing, but you just don't see them just like out
Yeah.
like bar. It's like, oh wow, you know what I'm saying? Or at a certain event, you're like, wow, okay,
And I knew that if I ran for the title and I won, that I would have a platform to talk about the issues that I wanted to talk about. For me, there was a couple of platforms that were important. The first one, as I said, representation.
Mm-hmm.
Wanting people to see not just my skin color and like my background, but wanting people to know that a bear could win the leather title in New York City.
Could you
Like,
explain what a bear is for
yeah.
our listeners?
So
Who
there,
really
so a bear, the way and I say the way I define it, right, is for me, it's always been a personal thing. It's been like, I occasionally every twice a year I go to the gym and I work out, but I got a little belly, right? I got a little something that you could grab on that you can keep warm, right? Like I got that. It's about maybe it's about people who are thick, maybe it's about people who are bigger, maybe it's about people who they're not like, I wasn't like working out and I didn't have muscles and all this thing. It was about this feeling of don't judge me for what my body looks like, right? Like, let's just be inclusive, right? Like, that for me is what the bear community is about.
Mhm,
And for me,
mhm,
as a bear, I was like, I got a little belly, I got my beard
mhm,
here. Although you don't need a beard to be a bear, some people
mhm,
think you need to be hairy to be a bear. You don't need to be hairy to be a bear either. There's also mama bears.
mhm,
Like, bears know, they know with a K, know with an N, gender, right? Like, anyone could be a bear.
uh,
um so so that what it so representation, my skin color, my background, my body shape, letting
mhm,
people know I don't need to be working out, I don't need to be a muscle guy in order to
mhm.
be the Mr. Eagle.
Yeah,
So it was about that.
that Tom Finland kind of that Tom
Yes.
Finland kind of aesthetic is like, first of all, no one can achieve that anyway.
Yep.
But just to push back against that whole aesthetic of that's what a
Yep.
leather man like or whatever.
Absolutely. And then it was about my platform. I cared about the representation, I cared about the body positivity, and I cared about any community that was uh, marginalized, vulnerable. So, like, when I did charity events, my charity events, for the most part, they went to raising money for trans women of color. That's of the one of the communities that I was like, okay, we're doing these events. We're gonna raise money for, the
Mhm.
Trans Latina Network. That was one of the organizations that I raised money for. Um, and I had introduced part of the for me the representation was like how can I transform this in the types of events that I do? So I did Piel, and Piel was the first Latin leather dance party at the Eagle. And
Mhm.
that's where I met Kenzo and I first met at Piel. Like that's
Mhm.
where we built a relationship. Like I've met so many people there. And remember to what I was saying earlier, I was like, where are the Latinos, right?
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
came out. They
Mhm.
came out for that event. And I
Mhm.
was like, here they
Yeah,
are.
I think that what happens is like organizers in quotes say, "Hey, we want to have representation, but none of your advertisement is representing of anything that you're saying you want. You're
Yeah.
saying these words, but you're not really putting in the work for it. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? So, for instance, there's an organization that was like, "Well, we don't know where the lesbians went. Where did the gay people go? And where did the black people go?" It's like, well, you're not advertising to them. So why would
Yeah.
I think this is for me if you're not
Yeah.
advertising it to me, right, in that kind of a way?
Yeah.
And when they start advertising, like having black people and Spanish people and women on their advertisement, and people are like, oh, maybe I should check this out,
Exactly.
right?
I did a
Yeah.
bear party too, and I was like, don't give me like I want a big person. I want somebody with a belly. I want an illustration
Yeah.
of
Mm-hmm.
a bear of color
Mm-hmm.
with a belly.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I want on the flyer. I want people to because I'm a very visual person. Just the words that you just said, Sir Raven, like I'm a very visual person. So if I see a flyer, that is what is that's what's gonna first attract me.
Mm-hmm.
Then I start
Mm-hmm.
reading the details. What type of person? Who's
Right.
the DJ? Because then I
Right.
know what type of music is gonna be played.
Yeah.
All those details are important. Like if I see an illustration or a photo of someone there, I'm like, oh, okay. So like I already know all the parties that are like reggae party, like I'm like, yes, like that's what I want, right? Like that, okay, I know the vibe. I know
Right.
who's gonna be there. My people are gonna be there,
Mm-hmm.
So that's what
Yeah.
it was for me. That's what it was like to your question of why'd you run? Like what was the purpose behind it? That was the purpose.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any role model? Well, role models, as it were, to besides wanting to see yourself, in the community. Did you
Yeah.
have anybody like a role model that was like, yes, you could do this, yes, you should do this, like you'll be great at doing this. Not just someone that's blowing smoke up your ass, like
Yeah.
someone for real. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the time, I was super involved with phonics, right? So all the
Mm-hmm.
brothers that were there, they were super encouraging to me. Um, from when I ran for Mr. Rock Bear to when I ran for Mr. Eagle,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing about it is that so I was able to when I was vice president of Onyx, I was able to judge a Mr. Eagle contest. And actually it's not really typical. And I was like, oh, Derek and Vern at the time, like,
Uh,
they had asked me to judge. I was like, this is super exciting. This is
uh,
really awesome. Then I competed, I won, and then I was able to judge again.
mm-hmm.
Um, but like Sir CJ, for example,
Mm-hmm.
who also is a
Mm-hmm.
former president of Onyx New York Northeast, uh, he was one of the people that said to me, "You can do this." He was like, "You're John John." Like that's his line to me. "You're John John. You
Uh-huh.
can do this." So
Mm-hmm.
he was one of my like cheerleaders behind me that was like rooting
Mm-hmm.
me on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so like it was really awesome because I had got to see him as
Mm-hmm.
his reign in Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Eagle. And whenever you are about to do something, sometimes you're like, oh, I got to do it like this person. I got to do
Yeah.
it like that person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I always take like tips from people, like, oh, like they're providing a path, so you kind of get some guidance there. But like, I wanted to do things my way, right?
Yep.
There's
Mm-hmm.
always people that are going to come and say, even in the leather community, right? You're not supposed to do that. You're not.
That's right.
Um, you live
Mm-hmm.
your journey and I'll live mine. As long as I am not hurting myself, hurting someone, like let me live in my journey. And guess
Yes.
what? If I make a mistake, I
Mm-hmm.
will learn from it. But
That's right.
again, as long as you're not hurting yourself, hurting someone else, like let people
Mm-hmm.
have their journeys, you know? And
Yeah,
like
yeah,
give them advice if they ask for it. Don't just come and like give me some advice. I didn't ask for your advice.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, okay. I want to also touch a little bit more about the leather thing, but um, one of the things that I talked about, like, but you've done, you uh, have done your advocacy for when you were running for your title. You did that work here in New York,
Yeah.
right? One thing that I talked about in, I'm sorry, in the video that I did about title holders was that title holders were like the ambassadors, you know, during the AIDS crisis. And so they were educators, they talked about safe sex, they did advocacy, and all of these things happened here in their backyard. Not to say that things weren't happening in the rest of the world, because,
Yeah.
you know, shit is burning everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes we have to take care of ourselves, take care of our home first before we think about, you know, trying to help somebody else take care of their home.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, when you look at title holders in the past or even now, what do you think about the future of title holders? Do you think title holders are still worth a thing?
It's
I'm just asking. I'm just saying. I've
no,
never, and I
it's a good
say this, I've
question.
never run for a title, so you know, I'm
Yeah,
just throwing
it's a
it
good
out there.
question. I mean, like, you know, I'm not as active in the, I mean, I guess it depends how you define active,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you
Mm-hmm.
define active as you're always out and about in these
Mm-hmm.
events, I'm not as active as I was as I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go to a leather event, a leather weekend, whatever, and I see title holders there, I guess because I've been in it for so long, the like excitement doesn't the excitement doesn't come to me as when I first was in the when I first started in the community.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Oh, okay, a title holder. Congratulations. Where you from?" Like things like that, right? Um, but you know, what is the future of title holders? I don't know. I think people can do what they do. Like, let's take you for an example. You said you've never run for a title, but
Nope.
you are still doing what you're doing even without being a title holder.
Mm-hmm.
You have a legacy that comes with your name.
Mm-hmm.
So people say Sir Raven, and they're like, "Oh shit, Sir Raven's here." I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I first met you, I was scared of you because
Why? Is it, my hair
because
wasn't bushy?
you
Was my hair bushy then?
bec- no, it wasn't. But because you have this legacy, like your name speaks for itself. What you've done in the community, what you continue to do in the community is a big deal. So I was like, I'm still new, and now I'm meeting Sir Raven. I'm meeting Lady
Right.
Sabrina. I met Master Taino. Like, oh my God! Like these people are legends. Like they have paved the way for other people to come forward in their journey
Mm-hmm.
and to create this safe space and to create representation. Like that's what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
So now as I look back on my journey, I think about how I have helped as well
Mm-hmm.
create that same sort of pathway for people.
Mm-hmm.
But the title like being a title holder doesn't necessarily mean that you need to you need the title in order to do good
Mm-hmm.
things in the world or do good things in the community, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think title
I think
holders,
yeah.
I think they'll always exist
Yeah.
because like people
Mm-hmm.
love them for many different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some of the reasons, like how you started the other question of sex and,
Or
you
clout.
know, I forgot the other word you
The
used.
clout. You wanted sex or
Clout.
clout? Uh-huh.
Yes.
Well, you know, I think that running for a now let me say I'm not against title holders or titles. I'm really not against that. I just rail against the machine sometimes because, like you, I've said to people, I've never run for a title, but I may. When someone says they want to run for a title, like, but why? Like you can do everything you're doing now
Yeah.
without a title, right?
Yeah.
But like you running for a bar title, I think sometimes is more important for me than like say an international title because you're here in your hood, you're in your neighborhood, you're in your town,
Yeah.
and you want people to see representation, right, of this bar. That's the way to do it because you're going to show up and you're going to rep that bar, you
Yeah.
know. And so I think
Yeah.
that says something more than being an international. I mean, I'm not knocking it. I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
for sure.
like I said, taking care of your
And
house here. Go ahead.
and because people have different reasons as to why they want to do it
Mm-hmm.
anyway, right? So like, and and that's the main reason why I didn't run for IML, because I knew that I wanted to do my work in my backyard. I wanted to build the bear community. I wanted to make the leather community in New York City more inclusive. Like that's what I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to focus on. And if
Mm-hmm.
I ran for an international title, it would take me away from my backyard.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Um, Also,
Yep.
it's fucking expensive.
You know what? People don't talk about how that's just, baby doing this.
It's a lot of
Anyway,
money
it is.
invested there.
It is a lot of money. Okay, so that was fun and exciting. I want to move now towards the your other advocacy that you do. You know, your work in civics, in government duties.
Yeah.
How did you get into that? Um, and yeah, what made you get into government, sticking your toe into that? Because that's you. If you thought the leather community was rough, I'm sure. I'm sure the politics.
Half of the people in politics are in the leather community, so
Oh, we're gonna get to that too, but don't be out nobody. But you know what I'm saying.
no, never. I so for me, every politics is local. It's local and it's personal. When I use the word local, I mean personal. Um, I was doing So first of all, I never went to college. I graduated high school, and when I graduated high school, I started working at a nonprofit organization for queer and trans young people of color in New York City. And we worked on issues of police brutality, gentrification, displacement,
Mm-hmm.
and safe spaces in New York City for queer and trans young people of color.
Mm-hmm.
I did that for like, I don't know, 7, 8 years or so. And I started teaching young people on workshops on the landscape of New York. And I did that because I was like, in order for us to get what we want, we need to know who the players are in New York City.
Yep.
We need to know who we bring our demands to,
Mm-hmm.
who is the target,
Mm-hmm.
and then the target in the who's listening, the
I know,
target in
right?
the sense of bringing your demands, nothing else. You got to put
Yes.
those disclaimers now.
That's right.
Um, and when I started doing that, I was like, wait a minute, I'm doing all this work. What about my own neighborhood? Who's
Mm.
my representative?
Uh-huh.
And I found out who my city council member was. And my city council member at the time was a woman named Rosie Mendez. Rosie Mendez, come to find out, is a Puerto Rican lesbian woman. And I was like, what? A Puerto Rican lesbian woman is representing me in the city? I gotta find this woman. Um, so one day I was walking home, and she was on the sidewalk in the Lower East Side, and I was like, "Who's this woman that all these people are around?" And I went up to her because I like to go up to people. I'm a social butterfly, so I will go up to you if you're the only person standing at a bar. I will go up to you and make conversation. So I
Mm-hmm.
went up to her and I was like, "Who are you?" And she explained who she was. She's, "I'm your city council member. I'm running for election. Blah blah blah."
Mm-hmm.
As I got to know her, I started volunteering on her campaign. My volunteering eventually led to me being offered a position on her team.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I've been doing years of community organizing. Do I want to leave and go to government? I have been fighting the man. Do I want to go work for the man now?
Right.
I talked to
Mhm.
all my, I talked to my inner
Mhm.
circle, and I
Mhm.
did it. And I worked for her for 4 years. And I worked for a couple of other people too in the city. Uh, that is what got me into government because I was doing all this work on the
Mhm.
streets. But then I was like, for me, I was like, why can't I organize on the inside? Like,
Mhm.
I believe that there are systems in place that are designed to tear people down,
Mhm.
tear Black people down, tear
Mhm.
communities of color,
Mhm.
tear immigrant communities, anyone who is not a cis white man who's a Christian, who is able bodied, like anybody else, they're tearing you down.
Mhm.
So, what can I do? Because I was like, I don't see this system changing, at
Right.
least not anytime soon. So, can
Well.
I work in the
Uh,
system and do what I can do?
mhm.
Also, because I had done all this work in nonprofit work, the nonprofit field for so many years that I wanted to work for someone who had a position of power to be able to open the door to those same grassroots nonprofits who always
Mhm.
had the door slammed in their face.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's what I was able to do when I got in the city.
Mm.
Uh, and I have been in government ever since.
I know.
That
I know.
that's what got me there.
That's fantastic. I mean, I know with this new administration, and I'm going to say this in the link in my bio, in my BLX bio, and in my personal Sir Raven bio, you will find a document that I put together that has uh, primary day, who's up for election, because you have to know these things. You
Yeah.
can't just think I'm going to vote for president because that's not you got to start
things
right.
things are moving on the local level, like, and it's, people think, okay, mayor, governor, president, that's it. Do you know you have a New York City council member?
A council
Do you
person.
know you have a New York State assembly member, a New York State senator? Do you know you have, I was in the barber shop getting a shape up the other day, and I was talking to the barber about a borough president, and he was like, was the borough president. I was like, that's what Eric Adams was before he was mayor. He was the Brooklyn borough president. There's a comptroller, there's a public advocate, there's a
Mhm.
district leader. No one knows what the hell a district leader was. I was a district leader in the Lower East Side from 2019 to 2021. A district leader, a Democratic district leader is what I was. Um, and a district leader is basically an unpaid elected official position. Those are party positions. So when you go on election day and you see poll workers,
Mhm.
it's probably the district leader that put all those poll workers there.
Mhm.
If a New York State elected official retires, dies, something happens to them, and they have to vacate the seat, it is the district leader that works with a group called the county committee and
Mhm.
fills the replacement. Like, this
Mhm.
is important.
Mhm.
When you walk down your street and you see uh that the sidewalk
Mhm.
is coming up from the tree root, did you know
Yep.
that you can call your city council member right after you call 311 and put a complaint, and they
Mhm.
can contact the New York City Department of Transportation and get it fixed? A lot of
Mhm.
people don't know that.
Mhm.
The money that goes into our schools, the money that goes into making a neighborhood sustainable, clean,
Mhm.
greener, that's all coming from people in positions of power that
Yep.
got the funding to allocate
Yep.
this.
Yep. Yep.
If you
Yep.
live
I
in
know.
public housing and your building is dilapidated, the investment in public housing is so poor,
Mhm.
that's because our three levels of government are not putting in the proper funding to actually invest
Mhm.
in it.
So
It's all it's
yes,
all related.
I know.
Your benefits
And
stopped.
I'm so glad. Do you know
If
that? I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, no, no. I'm just gonna. My last line was, if your benefits stopped, call your elected official. Like,
I'll let that
everything is.
marinate. I'll let that marinate for a minute. I'm gonna sip my water. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm saying all that to say also, all of that, you were spot on. That document that I was talking about has a link in it to how to join your community board, right? You know what I'm saying? How to join your community board. Primary day is June 24th. The election is November 4th. I have a link there. Who's up for election? Who's up for re-election? So
And
you can
this
go and
year in New York
see.
City is so important too,
It's
because we
important.
have a mayoral and city council
Yes,
election.
yes, we do. I put all the links. So I've done. I was doing it last night. I was on the phone with some people. I think I'm gonna call them my little sisters. Maybe I don't know. Anyway, and they were like, well, "What are you doing?" I'm saying I'm doing these links because I'm talking to John tomorrow about the city, and so I want to make it so easy for community to just go to the document and click the link, and you can find out your House of Representative,
Yes.
your senator, your city council, your board people. I want to make all the links for them, right? And there was a little joke. It was like, well, why can't people just go to because this is a computer. It's in your
Yeah.
pocket. It's a computer. You know what I'm saying? And I agree because I usually rail against the machine. I'm like, you don't have to go downtown and go to the Schwartzman building on 40th Street and then ask for the microfiche. Are you old enough to know what microfiche is? When they used to have the newspapers on the film? Okay. Anyway. Anyway, if you wanted to do research, you had to, you know what I'm saying? Like you had to go and look at like the New York Times from 3 years
Yeah.
ago on microfiche,
Yeah.
right? But you don't have to do that because you have a computer right here in your pocket. So I put all the links there. You could just go to the link, find out who your people are, their phone numbers, the websites, all of that. Just if you need to do a thing. There's also something happening, and to talk about, you know, so people say that this election, whew, sorry, people are really nervous, and rightfully so, right? But
Yeah.
after you're nervous, then do something. And so this is what I mean when I grew up talking about title holders. Everybody went to Washington. We're like, oh, y'all not going to listen to us? We're like dying of AIDS. We're going to come and sit on your front porch and make some noise and do all the things until you listen to us, right?
Yeah.
But you have to know who these people are, like you said.
Yeah.
So, when you need something, you have to be able to know who to call and not feel like, oh, someone else will do it. That whole, oh, someone
Yeah.
else will do it. So my
Because
neighborhood
that
is,
person is waiting to, that person is saying the same thing. Someone else will do it. Oh, and then someone else, and then someone else, and then someone else. And
and
like,
in the,
during election time too, like when folks are like, oh, I'm not going to vote because they don't. And that is the very attitude that leaves us with the people that we have now.
yes,
You probably didn't vote in a very local
right.
election, Like when I used to do community organizing work, it was hard too because I was working with young people, many of whom were experiencing homelessness or were
Mm-hmm.
kicked out of their homes because of their identity and their family didn't agree with it. And so it was always a balance between I know one that you are trying to
Yes,
survive in this world
yes,
and it's not easy, but I
yes,
also want you to know that the reason that you're trying to survive is also because of the powers that are at play.
most
And
definitely.
like we need to take some action at the same time trying to survive.
Yeah.
We do need to take action to change what we see, to change who is making the decisions,
Mm-hmm.
who's making the certain votes. Like we
Mm-hmm.
have to get out there and do it. And like
Mm-hmm.
that's why when I was a title holder, I was super political. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was political, but I would never apologize for that. It's all connected. If your favorite leather bar gets shut down, it's probably because they can't afford to stay there anymore. And guess what? All these like rent payments, how much you have to make in order to live, to have a business, that's all coming
Mm-hmm.
from the people in power. It's all connected. You cannot disconnect it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's true. I live in my neighborhood. So the Grand Concourse got a fresh new look of trees. I I live on the Grand Concourse. When that sun is out in the summer, baby, there is no shade because there's no trees.
Yeah.
So they've planted all these trees,
Yeah.
and I understand and know that some of that has to do with the fact that I don't even want to say it out loud because my rent is going to go up. Because they priced themselves out of Queens and Brooklyn and Manhattan, and so now the borough they call dirty they're moving into,
Yeah.
right? And so I know
Yeah,
that that.
isn't it so interesting? For
Uh-huh.
me, it's interesting because I'm like, okay, this is this hard conversation too around one, are we investing in our neighborhoods so that they get more, so that they become beautiful for us? Or actually, is it being gentrified?
Mhm.
It's this conversation of like, we're not really deserving of all these
Nice
things,
thing,
right? And
right?
now
Right.
all
Yep.
these other
Now,
people, oh look, the Starbucks open. We no longer got the local bodega, but also, even though I love the local bodegas, bacon, egg, and cheese, they also didn't have good quality meat there or healthy meat.
true. This is
So it's
true.
like this,
Yeah.
it's
It,
this constant
it,
struggle.
it is a struggle, and I understand. I've been around, and this is another reason why I'm so happy that you said yes, because I want our community to see someone of your generation really trying to make waves in ways that people might not think they can do it, right? So if they're like, well, this person from the Lower East Side can do it, maybe maybe I can do it
Yeah,
too, right? And no one is listening to me, the old butch in the room, right? Because no one, it's not me. I want them to really listen to you and to give you the platform. But also, I want you to know, and everyone who's listening, everything new is old. Like this cycle,
it's
I've
all
seen this
full
cycle, and
circle.
I pray that you live long enough to see the cycle as well, or not to even
Yeah.
see the cycle because you have broken, as Game of Thrones, break that wheel. You know what I'm saying? But so when you talk about everything being local, um, the community board got this lot that they were throwing garbage in, got them to clean it up, and they came and put signs on the buildings, call 311 because we're gonna flood 311 to make them come because
Yep.
rats and all this
Yep.
kind of stuff happens. Nope, they didn't do it. Then we started calling our city council. We started making phone calls,
Yep.
and these making phone calls didn't take me anything because you were going to get the answering machine anyway. So you weren't going to get the person.
Yeah.
But as long as you put so much pressure on them, and now that lot is clean. You
And
know.
let me tell you, the phone calls like that are super important. As somebody who works in a government office and has been doing it for so long, um, and has also answered a lot of phone calls from people on issues, I
Mm,
will say that they make a really big impact. Even if one, I pride myself because I'm always like, we're never gonna send anyone to voicemail. We're always gonna pick up the phone and let someone hear a body or a human. And for
mm-hmm,
me, I frown upon those other elected official offices that when you call, no one ever picks up the phone and it's just a machine, leave a message. I
mm-hmm,
think that's horrible. Like you were voted in to serve your people in your community, in your district. Pick up the phone and have a conversation. Even if people disagree with what the elected official is saying, engage people in a conversation. And I've had those conversations, and I will say, most staffers who do what we call constituent services, which
mm-hmm,
is the staff that answers the phone when the people call, we take note of that. And we take note of how many people are calling from the actual district versus outside the district. But all the amount of calls, you then start saying, oh, we got 1,500 calls on this issue. We probably need to make a statement, do
mm-hmm,
something,
mm-hmm,
take a position. Like,
mm-hmm,
those things are impactful to any elected official's office. So for anyone who's watching this or will watch it or whatever, like, just know that when you call, it does impact the office, especially if there's a ton of calls.
mm-hmm,
For those of
mm-hmm.
you that live in New York City, we hate. Look at that thumbs up. That's so weird.
That's what
Oh,
you did.
oh, 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 oh. Anyway, let me stop. The iPhone is crazy. It's a computer, like you said. It's a computer. for those of us in New York City who hate 311, 311 is actually so helpful because even though it's like this vicious cycle of going into a black hole, and not the good black hole, but the bad black hole, uh, you know, it takes record of your complaint. And then if you get that service request number, that C1-1-134, whatever the number is, you call your elected official's office and you give them the complaint and the 311 number. They can then call the elected official, call the agency that's responsible to fix the issue. So the fact that you put those resources out there is so important. The fact that you know, are giving people the guides, like that's super important too. Don't like, yes, we are going into a Trump administration with a Republican House, a Republican Senate, but guess what? In 2 years, the House of Representatives can change. The majority can change. The presidential election is every 4 years, but Congress members and like those are every 2 years. So now is the time to be organizing so that when we get to another set of elections for Congress members, we can flip the House. But even before then, this year, 2025 in New York City, you need to vote for a mayor and city council that represents the people. Because if the federal government is shit, then we need to rely on the city and the state to invest in its local government because we are not going to get the resources from the federal government.
Exactly. You know, I don't mind. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I was talking to someone and I said, you know what, I'm going to stand on my soapbox. And they were like, what are you talking about? Because I keep forgetting I talk to young people. And I said, well, you know, the term comes from soap being sold in a box. And people used to take it to like the town square or whatever. Not the town square, but you know, a place where like say Times Square or 125th Street or Fordham Road. And they would stand on the soapbox and they would, you know, just be talking, right? So I'm glad you got on your soapbox and really made that clear that it is very important. I am, my city council person is, I believe, running, there's a new person running, and I answered the phone and I had a wonderful conversation. And I'm blah, 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 blah. And I'm talking about, you know, how the trees are there and this, that, and the third, and how the neighborhood's being a little gentrified, and I'm afraid my rent's going to go up, which it did. And then I also talked about the farmer's market and how I wish we can have a farmer's market year round, right? And they said, well, that's possible, but we have to first find a spot to put the farmer's market during the winter, right? And so if we can find like a school or, you know, a community center or something like this that we can use. And so we were just talking. He said, you know, I'm going to talk to you soon. He said, have a great day. And we had a nice conversation. And the other day, this man knocked on my door. He knocked on my door. I was like, what are you? I said, oh, I know you. I said, I had a conversation with you. He said, you did. He said, you know what? I was giving some thought about that, what you were saying about the farmer's market. And people have been complaining that the new stores that are opening up in this neighborhood, because they are new, like these supermarkets, that the food rots so fast.
Yeah.
And so he said, you know, I want you to really think about it. And, you know, at the end of the year, I'll come back, we can touch base and really think about it. And I want you, and I was like, whoa, I'm not trying to.
You're about to start a farmer's market yourself in Fordham.
I was just saying, but something like that is how you can get something done. That's just my point. You know, the fact that the person that he said, listen, that was a really good idea. I'm getting complaints, or I'm hearing complaints about food being bad in these new supermarkets that they've opened, right? Because they have so much of it, and they don't have the people yet, you know, that moved to the neighborhood, so the food's going bad. And so they're like throwing out, there was a complaint that they're throwing out a lot of food. Like, you know, in a city where people are hungry, and you're throwing out food. Anyway, so yes, that little conversation I had got this man to ask me, well, think about it some more. And if you come up with a plan, we should try to make that happen. And I was taken because I wasn't trying to become John. I'm not trying to become John. But you know, I'm just saying that those little steps make big impacts.
Absolutely.
They make big even though you think it doesn't, it really
Yeah,
does.
and
The
the fact that he had a conversation and then thought about it and came back to have a personal conversation, it also
oh,
speaks a lot to like who that person is, right? And like what they're actually like they're oh, you're actively listening to me, right? Like you're not it doesn't just feel like okay, we had a nice conversation. Oh, come vote for me. Yeah, no, you
mhm,
actually followed up. Like that goes a long way.
it really
So,
does. It really. I was like, you know what? I may vote for you, but I was joking. I am going to vote for them because I know
after this live, outside from the people watching, let me know who that was, and I'll let you know if I know them and their history.
also, as you know, our health um, care is always in jeopardy, and there has been some things that happened very recently with people, tragic things happening to people. I'm trying to use these funny kind of words because I don't want to say that someone was, taken out because of
Hmm.
healthcare, but someone was taken out
Yeah,
because of health.
yeah.
And so Elizabeth Warren and another senator put a bill forth to break up the monopoly of the healthcare. And I got a letter that was passed on to me. It's in the link. It's already there. You just have to just have to put your name, and that's why I also put the link for the senators, because you can be seeing this in Atlanta and not know who your senator is. Go and find your senator and
Yep.
send them that letter and tell them to vote for this, because this is, even though nothing may really come of it, it puts pressure on people to
Yeah.
know that you're paying attention, that you're listening, that this is important to you, and those kinds of things. And if you could gather up your friends to go to a kink party, you can certainly gather up your friends to make phone calls, to go and vote, to go.
Call, call these offices while you're at the kink party. Everybody
or
needs a little break at the party. During
everybody
the
does
break, pick up the phone. Like, come on, make it
break.
kinky.
Keep it kinky. But that's what I got. I mean, I really appreciate the fact that you are still putting up the good fight. You know, to get some stuff done. You're young, you're fabulous, you're a bear. You're just moving and shaking, and I really appreciate that kind of work that you do. Um, I don't know what kind of advice, other than getting out and voting, would you give? I'm sorry. I was just thinking that maybe you were saying that you made a joke, kind of, that some people that are in politics are,
Did, did you see? I forgot the name of the person, but there was a Senate staffer that got fired because he was on in the chamber, I think, having a good old time with somebody and recorded it. So, I mean, the other thing too, I mean, I have been at the Eagle and seen elected officials there at the
mm-hmm,
Eagle, you
mm-hmm,
know? So like but to me what that says too is that these elected officials hold power, but they also are just ordinary people.
they are,
Like
yes,
they are your neighbor,
mm-hmm,
and they are
mm-hmm.
running for office. And nowadays, like you have even younger folks running for office. Chio Say is a perfect example. Chio Say is a city council member from Brooklyn. He's also he's like the Gen Z. He just passed his bill in the city council to end broker fees that
Yeah,
just went and passed and became law, but doesn't go into effect until 180 days.
mm-hmm.
But like people are running for office. Look at our former and next president. If he can do it, so can anyone, right? Like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so
yeah,
like
mm-hmm.
there are people in our community who are so active, and like in the very beginning I wasn't as like I didn't talk like I didn't mix my worlds of like
Mhm,
political and leather,
mhm.
but I became comfortable enough to do so, and now I do that, and it's not a reality for everyone. Everyone can't do
Right,
that for
right,
whatever
right.
reason.
Hmm.
Um, but I do that, and I plan to continue doing it until I'm not doing it anymore, you know? But
Hmm.
there are some important things out there that we just like, these are our lives. You just
Hmm.
mentioned healthcare as a top priority for so many people, right? Where like I literally lost